She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her all of the time. That being said, I was in contact with a number of WNBA coaches yesterday.
This is wild. What Rebecca Lobo is about to reveal about Caitlin Clark and the WNBA referees is seriously eye-opening. Honestly, the WNBA brass can't ignore this any longer because the truly subpar refereeing in that Fever Sun game just handed us the most insane example of the Caitlin Clark effect. And here's the kicker. That very same officiating has the power to completely destroy the WNBA itself. Rebecca Lobo's alarm, WNBA legend. Rebecca Lobo recently sounded the alarm, saying, "This isn't just a casual argument. If we've learned anything, it's that the WNBA seems to have learned absolutely nothing about how to protect and handle its golden goose, Caitlin Clark." She actually revealed what people are whispering behind closed doors throughout the WNBA regarding this whole officiating mess. The league won't like hearing this, but it all needed to be said. The magnitude of Caitlin Clark's impact on the league. Caitlin Clark's return to the court was a wake-up call for the entire league. Just a few games ago, Caitlin made her triumphant return, and in the first half alone, she dropped 25 points, including 3 absolutely insane logo bombs in a mind-blowing 38-second span. Her performance was so thrilling, so electric, that it was a massive reminder to everyone in the league, not just the fans, who is truly in command of this team. Caitlin Clark's return and its media. Impact. Her return was a clear reminder of how crucial she is to the WNBA. Missing those 5 games wasn't just a scheduling mistake. It was a full-blown public relations disaster. The league saw a significant drop in viewers, social media engagement plummeted, and national attention basically flatlined. And suddenly, any WNBA storyline without Caitlin Clark just felt like background noise. For context, Caitlin Clark's return provided a gigantic boost to the WNBA. Her matchup against the Liberty became one of the most watched WNBA broadcasts ever, hitting a peak audience of 2.8 million viewers. Want to know what the average viewership for the NHL Stanley Cup Finals was? 2.5 million. Think about that for a second. While basketball and hockey aren't identical, Caitlin Clark in one game just completely eclipsed a men's sports league that's been around for a century. And she did it during their championship round. NBA's oversight. Unfortunately, WNBA leadership seems to have completely overlooked the sheer significance of this. But Olympic gold medalist and Basketball Hall of Famer Rebecca Lobo, who is probably the smartest person in the room right now, definitely hasn't overlooked it. Before I dive into her bombshell comments on the referees, let's hear how she described just how seismic Clark's comeback truly was. Caitlin Clark's absence and viewership. Drop. Rebecca Lobo explained how Caitlin Clark's absence was felt throughout the league. When Caitlin was missing, ratings tanked by 50% in some cases. And then she comes back and reminds everyone how spectacular she is. Now pay really close attention to Rebecca Lobo's statement here. Even though it's such a simple sentence, it actually says everything, because it directly implies that if viewers are returning, it means they stopped watching in the first place. And let's be real, everyone knows exactly when that massive drop in viewership occurred. When Caitlin Clark was absent. The return of Caitlin Clark. Lobo went on to explain precisely why. As soon as Clark stepped back onto the court, fans immediately flocked back. Everybody's talking about the WNBA, so if you needed to sort of have it affirmed to you that it is just her, that the singularity of her is what we are talking about, and her star power, you got it with this absence and then the way she came back. And that right there is the issue. Few, if any, athletes from a different zip code can consistently and effortlessly pull off these crazy logo bombs like she does. And that, my friends, is exactly why fans pay attention. These weren't your run-of-the-mill deep threes or even long twos. The moment Caitlin crosses that middle line, even players like Natasha Cloud, who hasn't been shy with her critiques, must acknowledge that you absolutely need to guard her. Just ask Rebecca. This is simply not the norm. Caitlin Clark's star power and its effect on the league. Rebecca Lobo continued, "This is simply not the norm. Caitlin is driving the ratings. She's driving the conversation. The WNBA is talking about her because of her star power. Caitlin Clark's return was a moment of undeniable proof that she is the driving force behind the current momentum of the WNBA. Without her, the league risks fading into obscurity. But with her on the court, the energy and excitement she brings are unparalleled. The WNBA's struggles with officiating. But here's where it gets even more concerning. While Caitlin Clark was putting on a show, the referees were dropping the ball. There's a clear pattern that's been developing throughout the entire previous season, and now this one. What's even more insane is that the league should have been absolutely shut down during that game against the Sun. Caitlin Clark's incredible run of three-pointers was met with a complete lack of protection from the referees. This isn't just about missed calls. It's about the complete failure of the officiating crew to manage the game properly. The physicality of the game and missed calls. Rebecca Lobo, who has been around the league since 1997, explained, "I've never seen that in a WNBA game. We've seen players go on runs, but not like that. Not where a couple of the three-pointers are from 30-plus feet. It was an exhibition by her." Yet during this high-energy stretch, Caitlin was not only being fouled hard, but was also receiving no protection from the officials. In one instance, she was hit with a brutal body check by JCS Sheldon and Marina McBraw. And then there was the infamous claw to the face. The growing tension in the WNBA. The league's failure to call these fouls properly created a simmering tension that escalated rapidly into a boiling point. Coaches, commentators, fans, and even other players expressed shock at what was happening on the court. It was unprecedented. For many, it was the first time they watched a WNBA game and thought, "Wow, I've just never seen this before." The biggest problem was not just the physicality, but the way the referees allowed it to continue without intervening. This growing frustration among players and coaches is becoming more and more difficult to ignore. The growing frustration among players and coaches. The lack of effective officiating in the WNBA is not a new issue, but it's one that has become increasingly hard to ignore. The frustration from both players and coaches is mounting, and it's becoming clear that this problem is threatening the integrity of the league. Coaches like Stephanie White, after witnessing brutal fouls and missed calls, have expressed their anger in ways that are impossible to dismiss. White, visibly furious after the controversial calls in the Fever Sun game, said, "If the referees aren't going to protect us, we'll do it ourselves." This statement reflects the growing sense of helplessness among coaches, who feel they have no other choice but to take matters into their own hands when it comes to defending their players. Referees' inaction and the physical toll on players. The most alarming part of this situation is the failure of the referees to protect players like Caitlin Clark from unnecessary physicality. In a game against the Sun, Clark was hit hard not once but multiple times. A particularly egregious moment involved JCS Sheldon body-checking Clark and Marina McBraw delivering a brutal claw to her face. While physicality is part of the game, this level of aggression should not be tolerated without penalty. The referee's failure to step in and make the necessary calls is not only putting the players at risk, but is also sending a message that this type of behavior is acceptable in the WNBA. If players are left unprotected, it creates an environment where the game becomes increasingly dangerous. The escalation of tension. The consequences of these failures were clear during the game against the Sun. The physicality escalated quickly, and by the end of the first quarter, tensions were boiling over. Caitlin Clark's 38-second three-logo bomb spree was met with a complete lack of intervention from the referees. As a result, what should have been a thrilling moment of high-level basketball became overshadowed by the growing hostility on the court. Players were frustrated, coaches were furious, and fans were shocked. This wasn't just another tough basketball game. It was a turning point that exposed the cracks in the officiating system of the WNBA. The referees' refusal to manage the escalating tensions properly turned a great game into a chaotic, dangerous affair. A pattern of inconsistent officiating. What makes the situation even worse is that this isn't just a one-off event. This pattern of inconsistent officiating has been growing for some time now. It's not just about missed calls here and there. It's about the broader issue of how certain players, particularly those like Caitlin Clark, are being treated differently. The referee's failure to protect Clark is part of a larger trend where stars are not being given the same level of protection as their counterparts. This discrepancy in officiating is causing a ripple effect throughout the league, with players feeling less safe on the court and coaches questioning the fairness of the system. In fact, some of the league's most experienced and respected coaches are beginning to speak out. They are not just upset about a few bad calls, but are expressing concern over the long-term impact this could have on their teams, their players, and the overall reputation of the WNBA. The officiating needs to be addressed, or else the league risks losing its credibility, its stars, and ultimately, its fans. The impact on the league's reputation. The WNBA's reputation has already been impacted by the decline in viewership and engagement during Caitlin Clark's absence. While her return was a massive boost, the continuing problems with officiating are threatening to undo all the progress the league has made. If the WNBA continues to ignore these issues, it will alienate its stars, frustrate its coaches, and ultimately drive away fans. The integrity of the league is on the line, and the league's leadership must take decisive action to address the growing problem of officiating, the need for reform. At this point, the WNBA can no longer afford to overlook the issue of officiating. There needs to be a systemic overhaul of how games are officiated, especially when it comes to protecting star players like Caitlin Clark. The league must implement stricter rules, better training for referees, and more consistent enforcement of the rules. If the referees cannot be trusted to protect the players, the league needs to step in and ensure that those who are tasked with officiating the games are held to the highest standards of accountability. The danger of an unprotected star. Caitlin Clark is not just a player. She is the face of the WNBA. Her impact on the league is immeasurable, and her presence is a significant draw for fans and media. If she were to get injured due to lack of protection from the referees, it would be a catastrophic blow to the league. Not only would it damage the WNBA's reputation, but it would also cause a massive drop in viewership and fan engagement. The league must recognize that Caitlin Clark is not just a player. They must treat her as the precious asset she is. Protecting her isn't just about safeguarding a player. It's about safeguarding the future of the WNBA itself. The fear of losing the golden goose. The WNBA's future is directly tied to how it handles its stars. And Caitlin Clark is without a doubt the golden goose. Losing her due to injury or poor treatment would be disastrous for the league. The fans, coaches, and players know this. And it's time for the WNBA to take a hard look at what's happening on the court. If they don't act quickly, they could lose more than just a star player. They could lose the entire foundation that the league is built on. The league's leadership needs to recognize that Caitlin Clark is the key to its future success. If she gets hurt, it could be game over for the WNBA. The urgency of immediate action. The WNBA cannot afford to wait any longer. The issue of officiating is not something that can be swept under the rug or ignored any longer. The league needs to act now to ensure that its players are protected and that the integrity of the game is maintained. This isn't just about Caitlin Clark. It's about the future of the league as a whole. If the WNBA fails to address the problems with officiating, it risks losing its credibility and its fans. The time for change is now, and the league's leadership needs to step up and make the necessary reforms to protect the players and ensure the longevity of the WNBA. Conclusion: the WNBA is at a crossroads. The officiating issues that have plagued the league for years can no longer be ignored. The league needs to take immediate action to protect its players, especially its stars like Caitlin Clark. The future of the WNBA depends on the ability of the league's leadership to address these issues head-on. If they don't, the WNBA could face a crisis that could threaten its survival. The time to act is now. And if the league wants to secure its place as a premier basketball league, it must act decisively to fix the officiating problems before they destroy everything the league has worked for.